In the vast observation chamber aboard the Sentinel ship Eternal Vigil, Kexari floated before the galaxy's largest collection of civilization monitoring feeds. Their crystalline form shifted through shades of deep blue as they processed the incoming data from thousands of developing worlds. As First Watcher of the Sentinel Order, they had spent centuries observing countless species take their first steps into space, always maintaining the sacred distance their ancestors had mandated. But today was different. For the first time in their long career, Kexari felt something they had never experienced before: uncertainty. "Display feed 2187. H," they commanded, their voice resonating through the chamber's perfect acoustics. The holographic display shifted, zooming in on a seemingly unremarkable solar system in the Orion Arm Earth, as its inhabitants called it, shouldn't have been particularly interesting. By all standard metrics, humans were barely a Class 3 civilization, having achieved basic spaceflight and colonial expansion to their nearest planetary neighbors. Yet something about them was wrong. "Archive access, human advancement timeline," Kexari requested. The data streamed directly into their neural matrix, and their crystalline structure pulsed with confusion. Every other species followed predictable patterns of technological development, taking centuries or even millennia to progress from one stage to the next. Humans, however, had gone from primitive combustion engines to quantum computing in less than 200 years. "That's not possible," Kexari muttered, their form briefly flickering to a troubled amber. They had personally witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations that had taken thousand-year increments just to master basic atomic theory. Yet these humans had done it in decades. A soft chime interrupted their contemplation. "First Watcher," the ship's AI announced, "we have detected anomalous activity in Human Settlement Zone 47. The display shifted again, showing a small research outpost on one of Earth's colony worlds. Kexari's confusion deepened as they studied the readings. The humans were using equipment that shouldn't exist, combining technologies in ways that defied conventional understanding. "Magnify Sector 3, they ordered. The image zoomed in on a human researcher who appeared to be casually manipulating quantum fields with a device that looked cobbled together from spare parts. By all known laws of technological progression, this should have been impossible. The equipment needed for quantum manipulation should have been massive, requiring enormous power sources and cooling systems. Yet there stood the human, holding what appeared to be a handheld quantum manipulator, using it with the casual ease of someone operating a simple tool. Cross-reference with known technological development patterns, Kexari commanded, their crystalline form now shifting rapidly through colors of confusion and concern. The results only deepened their unease. There was no precedent for this in the vast archives of the Sentinel Order. The humans weren't just advancing quickly, they were advancing wrong. They were skipping crucial developmental stages, combining technologies that should have been centuries apart, and, most disturbingly, they were doing it with a reckless abandon that made Kexari's crystalline structure vibrate with anxiety. "Access historical records, human problem-solving methodologies," they requested. The data that flowed into their consciousness only confirmed their growing suspicion. Where other species approached problems methodically, building upon established principles, humans experimented. They tried things that shouldn't work, combined elements that should be incompatible, and somehow, impossibly, succeeded more often than they failed. A memory crystal on Kexari's workspace pulsed with an incoming priority message. "First Watcher," the message began, "we have detected human quantum signatures approaching Sentinel observation posts in 3 different sectors. They shouldn't be able to detect our presence, yet their flight patterns suggest deliberate investigation." Kexari's form crystallized into a rigid pattern of alarm. In 10,000 years of watching, no species had ever detected a Sentinel observation post. The technology that kept them hidden was beyond even what the Sentinels themselves fully understood, inherited from their ancient predecessors. "How?" they whispered to the empty chamber. "How are they doing this?" The answer, when it came, was buried in a routine observation report from Earth. Kexari found themselves studying footage of a human educational facility, what they called a high school. A young human was presenting what they termed a science fair project. The project's title made Kexari's entire form flash white with shock. Theoretical applications of multidimensional quantum tunneling for detecting advanced civilizations. It was crude. It was imperfect. It was built with technology that should have been far too primitive for the task. And yet, as Kexari studied the young humans' methodology, they realized with growing horror that it would work. The humans weren't following the rules of technological progression because they didn't know there were rules to follow. Initiate emergency protocol, Kexari announced, their voice carrying the weight of a decision that would break thousands of years of tradition. Prepare for direct contact. Because in that moment, Kexari understood a fundamental truth. They could no longer simply watch the humans. For the first time in Sentinel history, the Watchers themselves needed to be ready to be seen. The Great Council Chamber of the Sentinel Order hadn't been convened in full session for over 3 millennia. Now, thousands of crystalline forms floated in the vast spherical space, their colors shifting in waves of concern and disbelief as Kexari presented their findings. The humans have not only detected our observation posts, Kexari projected, their form pulsing with urgency, they have begun actively studying them. This recording was taken just 30 standard cycles ago. The central hologram displayed a human research vessel approaching a cloaked Sentinel station. Instead of passing by as countless ships had done for millennia, this one stopped. It deployed instruments that shouldn't have been able to exist, let alone function. Impossible, declared Elder Vexthor, their ancient form glowing a skeptical red. Our stealth technology is based on principles that predate our own civilization. No class, 3 species could possibly. They aren't following the classification system, Kexari interrupted, breaking centuries of protocol. Look at this. The hologram shifted to show a human research facility. Inside, scientists huddled around what appeared to be a crude replication of Sentinel phase shift technology. It was built from parts that should have been incompatible, quantum processors alongside analog devices, gravity manipulators powered by what appeared to be modified solar cells. They're recreating our technology, Kexari continued, not through careful advancement and understanding, but through what they call reverse engineering. They see the end result and work backward, skipping entire stages of development. The chamber erupted in colors of shock and denial. Elder Vexthor's form crystallized in patterns of deep concern. This violates every known principle of technological progression. The dangers of advancing without proper understanding are apparently irrelevant to humans, Kexari finished. They've had 17 major laboratory explosions in this facility alone. They call them learning experiences. The hologram shifted again, showing human scientists emerging from the smoke of a failed experiment, their protective gear scorched, but their expressions, excited? They were making notes, adjusting calculations, already preparing for another attempt. But the most concerning development is this, Kexari continued. The display showed a human settlement on Mars, their first major colony. They're not just detecting our technology, they're improving it. The chamber went dark with shock. Elder Vexthor's voice trembled. Improving ancestral technology? This human device, Kexari highlighted a crude-looking machine, achieves 18% greater phase shift efficiency than our own systems. They build it from what they call spare parts and something called duct tape. A wave of chromatic distress rippled through the chamber. The implications were staggering. The Sentinel Order had maintained the same technology for millennia, preserving it exactly as their ancestors had passed it down. The idea of improving it was nearly blasphemous. We have 3 options, Kexari declared. First, we can withdraw completely from human space. Second, we can attempt to suppress their development, though I must note that their response to obstacles appears to be accelerated innovation. Or third, they paused, their form shifting to a color that hadn't been seen in the chamber for thousands of years, the deep green of change. We can initiate first contact. The chamber exploded in a riot of colors. First contact was more than just breaking protocol, it was breaking the very foundation of what it meant to be a sentinel. They were watchers, observers, never participants. The humans will find us anyway, Kexari pressed on. Their current rate of technological advancement suggests they'll achieve full detection capability within 5 years. The only question is whether we meet them on our terms or theirs. Elder Vexthor floated forward, their ancient form radiating authority. You believe they are ready? A species that advances without understanding, that builds without proper progression. No, Kexari replied honestly. They're not ready. But more importantly, we're not ready for them. Every model, every pattern, every principle we've developed over millennia of observation, humans break them all. And they do it with a smile and something they call coffee. The hologram showed one final image, a human child looking directly at a cloaked sentinel probe, waving at it and taking what they called a selfie with it. We are no longer merely observers, Kexari concluded. The humans have made that choice for us. The only question that remains is, how do we adapt? The chamber fell into contemplative silence, thousands of crystalline forms processing this unprecedented situation. The humans hadn't just broken the rules of technological advancement, they had shattered the very role of the Sentinels themselves. As the council began their deliberations, Kexari received an urgent update. The humans had just submitted a patent application for improved quantum phase shift cloaking technology. The abstract thanked the mysterious alien observers for the inspiration. The time for watching was over. The age of interaction was about to begin, whether the Sentinels were ready or not. They're doing it again, Kexari announced to the emergency session of the Sentinel Council, their crystalline form flickering with a mixture of fascination and dread. The holographic display showed dozens of human ships, each equipped with increasingly sophisticated detection equipment, spreading out across their solar system in a methodical search pattern. The humans had turned their entire solar system into what they called a science project. Every Sentinel observation post, no matter how well hidden, was becoming a target for their insatiable curiosity. Show us the latest incident, Elder Vexthor commanded, their ancient form dimmed with worry. The display shifted to an event from just hours ago. A human research vessel approached a Sentinel probe that had successfully monitored their civilization for centuries. Instead of the expected sophisticated scanning equipment, the humans had deployed something that appeared to be held together with what they called rubber bands and paper clips. That can't possibly work, one of the council members declared. Yet it did. The crude device not only detected the probe, but somehow managed to capture a detailed three-dimensional scan of its internal components. The humans celebrated this breakthrough by sharing something called pizza and making plans for immediate replication attempts. Their methodology defies all logic, Kexari continued. They're not just finding our technology, they're treating it like some kind of scavenger hunt. They've even created a civilian science organization called Alien Tech Spotters. They have a website. They give out badges. The council chamber rippled with colors of disbelief as Kexari displayed the website. Humans were sharing observation post locations, comparing notes on detection methods, and even rating the technological sophistication of different Sentinel devices. They had created a point system. Yesterday, a human teenager earned something called an Ultimate Spotter Badge by locating one of our quantum communication relays, Kexari reported. They did it with modified gaming console parts and something they call energy drinks. Elder Vexthor's form pulsed with alarm. The quantum relays are our most sophisticated technology. They operate on principles that even we don't fully understand anymore. The humans don't seem bothered by not understanding, Kexari replied. They've already started building their own versions. They're calling it quantum Wi-Fi. They're planning to release it as an open-source project. The chamber erupted in chromatic chaos. The idea of freely sharing such advanced technology was unthinkable. Yet the humans were treating it like a community hobby project. But the most concerning development is this, Kexari continued, shifting the display to a human social media platform. They're not just finding our technology, they're leaving messages for us. Look. The display showed hundreds of posts tagged with hashtag alienfriends and hashtag come and say hi. Humans were leaving welcome messages, scientific proposals, and invitations to what they called coffee dates near every discovered observation post. They've turned our surveillance network into a communication system, Kexari explained. They're using our own technology to reach out to us. And their form flickered with bewilderment. They're making memes about us. The display filled with human-created images combining Sentinel technology with something called cat pictures and phrases like ancient alien tech, instructions unclear, made it better, and found your probe, let's do lunch. This cannot continue, Elder Vexthor declared. Our entire purpose is to observe without interference. We cannot allow ourselves to become. Their form shuddered, social media content. I don't think we have a choice, Kexari responded. The humans have already collected enough data about our technology to begin mass production. Their only debate is whether to release it as consumer products or wait to meet us first. They're being considerate. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans weren't just detecting the Watchers, they were trying to be polite about it. They had turned the greatest secret in the galaxy into a public science project and were now worried about proper etiquette. There's one more thing, Kexari added, their form shifting to a troubled purple. They've started leaving gifts near our observation posts. Food, scientific papers, and something called friendship bracelets. They think we might be shy. The display showed a Sentinel probe surrounded by human offerings, including a hand-drawn sign that read, "Don't be scared. We think you're neat." The age-old Watchers of the galaxy had become the watched, and their subjects had turned out to be far more fascinating and friendly than anyone could have predicted. The question was no longer whether to make contact, but how to respond to a species that had turned cosmic surveillance into an intergalactic block party. Perhaps, Kexari suggested, their form brightening slightly, we should start by trying this coffee they keep offering. The fate of millennia of Sentinel tradition now hinged on whether the most advanced civilization in the galaxy was ready to accept a dinner invitation from their former research subjects. The first official meeting between humans and Sentinels took place in a location that perfectly embodied humanity's approach to cosmic diplomacy, a small coffee shop in Geneva called The Daily Grind. Kexari found themselves floating across from Dr. Sarah Chin, the lead scientist of Earth's Xenotechnology Integration Project, trying to process both the concept of informal diplomatic relations and something called a caramel macchiato. So, Dr. Chin said, seemingly unfazed by the crystalline being hovering above the cafe's vintage armchair, I hope you don't mind, but we've already started implementing some of your quantum relay principles into our internet infrastructure. We made a few tweaks though. Turns out it works better if you reverse the polarity of the neutron flow and add some RGB lighting. Kexari's form flickered between shades of confusion and astonishment. You improved millennia-old technology by adding decorative lights? Oh, the lights are just for fun, Sarah grinned, taking a sip of her coffee. The real improvement came from wondering why you were using such a complicated method for quantum entanglement when you could just... She grabbed a napkin and quickly sketched out a diagram that made Kexari's crystalline structure vibrate in shock. That's impossible, they declared. The quantum harmonics would never stabilize without the traditional containment matrices. Yeah, that's what we thought too. But then Kevin from IT suggested we try stabilizing them with modified microwave resonance instead. Blew up the first few times, but version 6 works great. We're calling it QuantumNet. Want to see the cat videos? They transmit instantly across any distance now. The former First Watcher of the Sentinel Order found themselves in the unprecedented position of learning about their own technology from a species that had discovered electricity less than 2 centuries ago. More troubling was the fact that the humans' modifications actually made sense in a chaotic, unconventional way. Your approach to technological development is... Kexari paused, searching for the right word, unprecedented. That's what makes it fun. Sarah beamed. By the way, we've been meaning to ask, those phase-shift cloaking devices you use? We think they'd work great for hiding space billboards. You know, for environmental aesthetics. Space billboards. Oh, right, we should probably mention, we've kind of started commercializing some of your tech. Hope that's okay. Don't worry, we're being responsible. Mostly. There's a strict, no superweapons policy. Well, except for that one guy in Florida, but we sorted that out. Kexari's form pulsed with alarm. You're already manufacturing Sentinel technology? Manufacturing, improving, and finding completely unexpected uses for it, Sarah confirmed. Did you know your quantum field generators make amazing pizza ovens? Manufacturing, improving, and finding completely unexpected uses for it, Sarah confirmed. Did you know your quantum field generators make amazing pizza ovens? Something about the space-time distortion gives the cheese the perfect melt. Before Kexari could process the concept of using advanced quantum technology for food preparation, Sarah's phone chimed. She glanced at it and broke into a wide smile. Oh, perfect timing. Remember that anomaly we detected in the Carina Nebula? The one your records marked as "do not approach under any circumstances"? Well, we sent a probe anyway. Don't give me that look, we were careful. And, you might want to see this. She turned her phone screen toward Kexari, showing readings that made their crystalline structure nearly shatter in shock. The humans hadn't just investigated the anomaly, they discovered something the Sentinels had missed for millennia. Is that? A quantum tunnel leading to what appears to be an artificial construct of unknown origin? Yep. We're calling it the Cosmic Subway. Want to help us explore it? We've already got a team ready to go, and they'd love to have you along. We even made you a custom spacesuit. It's got cup holders. Kexari, the former keeper of ancient protocols and guardian of technological progression, found themselves facing a decision that would have been unthinkable just months ago. The humans weren't just breaking the rules of advancement, they were rewriting the very nature of cosmic exploration, and somehow making it seem like an exciting adventure rather than a terrifying breach of protocol. I would need to consult with the council, they managed. Already did. Sarah chirped. Sent them an email last week. Your Elder Vexthor is actually really cool once you get them talking about quantum mechanics. They're joining the expedition too. Said something about, if you can't beat them, join them. They're getting really good at human phrases. And so, Kexari found themselves agreeing to join a human-led expedition into unknown space, armed with technology that was an impossible fusion of ancient Sentinel wisdom and human innovation, all while trying to process how quickly everything had changed. One condition, they said firmly. Name it. No more pizza modifications to quantum technology without proper supervision. Sarah grinned. Deal. But wait until you try our quantum grilled cheese. It's literally out of this world. We're still trying to figure out why it sometimes appears in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The age of pure observation was truly over. The age of human sentinel collaboration had begun, and it was going to be far stranger and more interesting than anyone could have predicted. Deep within the quantum tunnel they'd discovered in the Carina Nebula, the joint human sentinel expedition made its way through what Dr. Chin had dubbed the galaxy's most interesting subway system. The research vessel, a hybrid of human ingenuity and sentinel technology, hummed with an energy that even Kexari had to admit was more stable than traditional sentinel ships. There's something familiar about these patterns, Elder Vexthor observed, their crystalline form reflecting the strange symbols that lined the tunnel's walls. The ancient sentinel floated next to Dr. Chin, who was enthusiastically scanning everything in sight with a device that looked suspiciously like a modified kitchen microwave. Familiar how? Sarah asked, not looking up from her readings. Also, is anyone else getting hungry? These quantum fluctuations remind me of pancakes. Before Kexari could comment on the irrelevance of human food to cosmic mysteries, they noticed something that made their entire form freeze in recognition. These aren't just patterns, they announced. They're maintenance logs. This tunnel, it's part of a transportation network built by our predecessors. The human crew, rather than showing appropriate awe at this revelation, immediately started taking selfies with the ancient markings. Cool, Sarah exclaimed. But why make a transport system and then abandon it? And why tell everyone to stay away? Perhaps, Kexari began gravely, some mystery should remain. Oh, interrupted Dr. Rodriguez, another human scientist, who was comparing the symbols to something on his tablet. These aren't just maintenance logs. They're warnings. Look at this repeating sequence. It's talking about something called the Hollow. The sentinels aboard the ship all shifted to colors of deep concern. The Hollow was a myth, a horror story told to young sentinels about an ancient enemy that devoured entire civilizations. But it was just a legend, wasn't it? Sarah, meanwhile, had pulled out what appeared to be a coloring book and was rapidly making connections that should have been impossible. So, If we cross-reference these symbols with the quantum fluctuation patterns we've been tracking... Oh wow, that's not great. What do you mean? Kexari asked, dreading the answer. Well, Sarah said, holding up her diagram, either I'm really bad at ancient alien math, or there's something eating stars at the edge of the galaxy. Like right now. And according to these logs, your ancestors built this network to fight it, but then just gave up? That doesn't make sense. The ship's sensors suddenly chimed with an alert. They'd reached the end of the tunnel, emerging into a vast chamber that defied the laws of physics. And there, floating in the center, was a sight that made even the humans temporarily stop taking pictures. Very well, Kexari announced, their form shifting to a color of determination. Let's save the galaxy. But please, try not to turn the hollow into a pizza oven when we're done. No promises. Sarah called back, already sketching out plans for what she was calling the ultimate cosmic debug. One standard galactic year after the discovery in the Carina Nebula, Kexari stood before the combined assembly of the Sentinel Order and the United Earth Science Council. The Grand Chamber, a perfect fusion of crystalline Sentinel architecture and human ergonomic design, complete with coffee stations, hummed with anticipation. The hollow has been successfully contained, Kexari announced, their form glowing with a mix of pride and lingering disbelief. Though I must note for the record that the method of containment was unconventional. Dr. Sarah Chin, now sporting a badge that read Cosmic Debug Team Lead, stepped forward. Who would have thought that the key to stopping an ancient space horror was treating it like a computer virus? Turns out all those millennia of trying to destroy it just made it stronger. It just needed a good reboot and some patch notes. The display behind them showed the hollow, once a terror of cosmic proportions, now transformed into what the humans had dubbed the galaxy's biggest data center. They had somehow managed to repurpose its entropy-consuming nature into a productive force, using it to process and store vast amounts of information. Of course, Sarah continued, we had to add some modifications. The quantum containment field works much better with the addition of what we call happy lights. Turns out ancient cosmic entities respond well to proper mood lighting. Who knew? Elder Vexthor, their ancient form now adorned with a small, I love Earth pin, spoke up. The true revelation wasn't just in solving the problem, but in how it was solved. Our ancestors spent millennia trying to fight the hollow with pure power, when all along it needed, what did you call it, Dr. Chin? A user interface upgrade, Sarah grinned. Sometimes the scariest things in the universe just need a better UI and some basic tech support. Kexari's form shifted to a reflective blue. This experience has taught us that the purpose of the Sentinel Order was never just to watch and wait. It was to learn, to adapt, and ultimately, to find those who could see problems in ways we never imagined. And now, they continued, gesturing to the new joint human-sentinel research projects displayed around the chamber, we begin a new chapter. The humans have shown us that progress isn't just about careful advancement or preserved knowledge. It's about creativity, adaptation, and sometimes just trying things to see what happens. Sarah nodded enthusiastically. Plus, we've got some really exciting projects coming up. We're looking at upgrading the entire quantum relay network with what we call social features. Elder Vexthor is already really into something called Space Twitter. The ancient Sentinel's form flickered with what might have been embarrassment. I merely find the concept of memes intellectually stimulating. You've posted 60 cat pictures this week alone, Sarah stage whispered. Kexari brought the focus back to the matter at hand. The Sentinel Order will continue its mission of observation, but with a new purpose. We will no longer just watch civilizations develop. We will learn from them, grow with them, and together face whatever challenges the universe presents. Though, they added, their form flickering with what humans would recognize as amusement, we do request that all future modifications to ancient technology be run by at least one safety committee before implementation. We're still dealing with the interdimensional pizza incident. Hey, that was only one small tear in space-time, Sarah protested. And we fixed it. Eventually. Once we figured out why the pepperoni kept appearing in the past. The chamber filled with a mixture of crystalline chimes and human laughter, a sound that would have been unthinkable just a year ago. The Sentinels had learned to embrace chaos, and the humans had learned to channel their creativity into cosmic problems. Together, they had found something greater than either civilization could have achieved alone. As the assembly moved on to discuss future projects, including something the humans were calling quantum social media, Kexari reflected on how far they had come. The Watchers had become participants, the Observers had become collaborators, and the galaxy was better for it. Even if they still couldn't quite explain why every successful human innovation seemed to require decorative lighting. To the future, Sarah raised her coffee cup. To understanding, Kexari responded, their form glowing with optimism. To RGB everything, someone called from the back of the room. And in that moment, as plans were made and ideas were shared, the true power of combining ancient wisdom with human innovation became clear. The galaxy wasn't just saved, it was about to become a lot more interesting. And probably a lot more colorful.